Hey everybody!
Hi.
We are live again with What's Up with Upslope TV. This is episode 9. Let me get y'all the title here. This is called Gettin Outside with Leave No Trace and Campin. So you got Leave No Trace on this side and you got Campin down here. And I'm Katie. I'm Upslope's marketing manager. I'm just here to move us through the fun. These are really the people y'all want to be talking to. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce everybody. So first and foremost, we got Dean from Leave No Trace. He is the director of corporate partnerships. Dean, what's up? Tell everyone who you are.
How's it going? Thanks for having me, Katie. I actually started at Leave No Trace as an intern when I moved to Boulder, Colorado. And I kind of never left until they gave me a job. And I hung around, just kept working for free and just volunteering for probably about 9 months. And then kind of moved into the role I'm in now. And I've been at that role for about 10 years, working with various corporations to instill Leave No Trace into their daily practices and their mission.
Corporations like Upslope. So for anyone out there, do you want to talk about our relationship really quick so people know how we work together?
Yeah. So we've, I think you approached me with one of the founding fathers maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And you guys were like, hey, we've got this cool event. Everyone's been coming to us. It's the Upslope Backcountry Tap Room. And you said everyone's coming and saying, why don't you work with a nonprofit? This would be fantastic. We would love to make a donation for this. And I believe the event was free at the time, maybe. And we just started working together and figuring out how can we get instill Leave No Trace knowledge and use the event to educate others who are coming to it. So we kind of went from there and it's blown up. We've definitely worked pretty heavily and luckily we're neighbors. So we can always go to the brewery and get a beer and chit chat and talk about some new ideas for the next year and years to come.
Yeah, and so for everyone watching, I just wanted to bring that up real quick so it made sense. Dean and I, prior to going live here, we're trying to think like, how do we know each other? How long have we been hanging out? How long has L&T and Upslope been a thing? But we couldn't really remember. So time flies when you're having fun. And ultimately, that's why these guys are all on here. We've got the road team, so the Leave No Trace traveling team members, Erin and Brice, down where I can never get this right, down there. Hey, yeah, what's up, y'all?
Right on.
Yeah, the only square with 2 people in it.
Yeah.
We want to thank you for having us here today to drop some knowledge on all those Upslope lovers out there. We probably have what I think is one of the coolest jobs in the entire world. When it's not a pandemic, we typically are driving around the country full-time, camping about 300 nights a year, doing free educational workshops to teach people how to protect nature and keep these shared outdoor spaces healthy and happy so they'll be around for a long time. So we're excited to be able to talk with you all, give you some information, and have a good time.
Yeah, so I'm the Erin half of Erin and Brice. That's the Brice half. And we have been working for Leave No Trace for just over 2 years, living on the road for that 2 years. And we really love what we do. We love teaching people about how they can protect places, because if you don't know better, you can't do better. So we want to give people, anyone who likes to go outside, whether that's just in their, in their neighborhood going for a walk, or if they're going to, the Backcountry Tap Room or doing some longer trips, giving people the chance to protect places and minimize their impact and do a little bit of good for the environment as they're going and enjoying these places.
Heck yeah, I would say you guys 100% have the coolest job. Camping 300 days a year sounds really, really cool. I don't know if we have any pictures of y'all's rig, but that could be cool for people to check out. Maybe we can do you guys have a Facebook page or an Instagram you want to plug right now?
Yeah, so the Leave No Trace Facebook and Instagram and our YouTube, they're Leave No Trace Center for all platforms at Leave No Trace Center. And we have some cool tours. We have an Instagram live tour and a YouTube tour of our whole setup. So if you're curious about how we live on the road for 2 years straight and camp 300 nights a year, that's a really good thing to check out. You can see what gear we have. We have a cool kind of setup where we have some slides built out so we can cook out of the back of our car. And you can go ahead and scope all of that stuff. And then if you follow us and do all of that, then you'll get some education kind of every single day too, which is good.
Very cool. And last but certainly not least, let me make sure I click the right name title for you. We have Brice, campsite conjurer.
Yeah, so my name's Brice, and I'm so stoked you guys camp 300 nights a year. I run a camping app, and that sounds awesome, and also kind of hard though too. I totally get it. That's tough. So a few years ago, my husband and I and our friend who's a developer decided that there was a big problem with dispersed camping in Colorado, and that it was that the sites that we were finding were like unreliable. They'd be on private property, stuff like that, on the sites we'd find online. And so we thought we wanted to step in and create something better. So we created an app called Campin without the G, and we find all the sites ourselves. We photograph them, we detail them, we map them, and we make sure that it's all legit and legal. And it's kind of like just a curated list of camping sites in Colorado specifically. So we did that. And last year we found 150 areas, not just sites, but areas. And my dog's right here, by the way. And then this year,
pick him up. Let's have, everyone loves dogs. Brewer, make an appearance.
Oh, okay. Here we go. He's gonna love this.
Brewer's the best dog ever.
He's such a good dog.
He's always in our tap room, so we know him well at Upslope.
Yeah, he was there when he was a puppy, so we've been going to Upslope for a long time. But so now we have a pretty good list of sites, and we're super stoked.
Cool. All right. Well, first of all, I do want to mention to everyone who's watching, if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, please shoot us some comments or questions. These are kind of the people who are the folks with the plan when it comes to camping. So if you have a question, these are who you want to ask. And I know it's summertime in Colorado, right? And it's all about getting outside, especially in the middle of a pandemic. People are trying to find ways to stay active and get outside and not be stir crazy. So yeah, that's why we're here today talking about all this stuff. We already have a couple of comments. I don't know what they are yet. It looks like it's just from our teams giving you guys resources. But if you're watching live, please send in some stuff, and we're going to do some tips and tricks. And do you guys want to jump in straight away about like just what is Leave No Trace for anyone watching who might not know?
Yeah, absolutely. So Leave No Trace is a national nonprofit. Actually, we're international too. We do have some kind of partner organizations in other countries, but a lot of times people have heard the name Leave No Trace, but they don't really realize that we're a nonprofit and an organization. And we've been around for over 25 years. And our main goal is kind of like I mentioned before, just providing that education. So we do research, we have education curriculum that we provide, and we get to travel around and do that curriculum for everyone who enjoys the outdoors. So sometimes we're training national park staff. Sometimes we're in an elementary school talking to kids about how they can protect outdoor spaces. But our main goal as an organization is to provide all of those resources and that research so that we know how to minimize our impacts and how to protect these places.
It's really important. And just to put it all in context, it's the sheer amount of people going outside and the cumulative effect we can all have is why it's so important that we all learn the skills, techniques, and maybe gear that we might need to leave no trace. In the US alone last year, there were, if you include municipal parks and green spaces, there were nearly 13 billion with a B visits to our outdoor spaces. And that's great. A lot of people are getting out and enjoying nature, but we want to give them the tools to do it in a way that's going to protect it for the long term.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned that too. As we're all living through this pandemic, that's only going up exponentially because the outdoors are something that we still have access to if we're kind of privileged enough to still have access to them. And a lot of people who would maybe be taking other kinds of vacations are going into outdoor spaces. So in this moment more than ever, it's important for us to just empower ourselves to know how to minimize our impacts, how to protect these places, and Leave No Trace is really the best way to do all of that and to learn those skills.
Yeah, it's super important with the amount of people, especially anyone who's new to Colorado or not new to Colorado, knows that we are just getting overwhelmed with people, and that's awesome. Everyone's moving out here because it's a great place to be, phenomenal place to recreate, but also that can be taking a major toll on these sites that are so beautiful that people want to go and see. So at Upslope, it was super important for us to kind of hitch our wagon to the Leave No Trace team, as Dean mentioned, because of the Backcountry Tap Room. So we were stoked that we had all this interest in an event for people to go out and get out and drink beer in the outdoors with us. But then we had to realize, well, we don't want to do, we want to only do good, right? We don't want to cause a problem with the amount of people out there. So that's when it was just a no-brainer for me to, like I said, hitch that wagon to Leave No Trace, because we need to minimize and reduce the impact that we're having on these beautiful sites. So I think this would be a good time to pull up a slide with the 7 principles. I know that's what's behind you guys too. I have a cool thing from Dean that's a little like luggage tag of sorts that you can hook to your backpack or whatever, that reminds people of what those principles are. I think a lot of people, like you said, they hear Leave No Trace, they probably get what it means, right? You hear leave only footprints, that kind of thing. Pack it in, pack it out. But you guys get into the nitty gritty, and these principles have been outlined and well vetted. So I'm going to pop that slide up. And if you guys, Dean, Bree, feel free to chime in about your experiences with, living and breathing these principles in the outdoors too. So boom, here we are.
Yeah. So those 7 principles, if I'm over here, you can still.
Perfect.
Those 7 principles are really the backbone of Leave No Trace. They're not everything that we talk about or everything that we do. But as I mentioned, we're a science and research-based organization. So all of that research and science kind of led to these 7 principles, the 7 ways that you as an individual can really minimize your impact and protect these outdoor spaces. And as you can see, litter isn't even in the name of any of them. Litter is just a small part of that. There's a lot of other ways we impact our outdoor spaces, and so a lot of other ways we should minimize them. We actually have...
Katie, if you'll take down the slide real quick, we'll do something real fun here.
Yeah,
so
we actually have a fun mnemonic to help us remember those, because like you said, we have those hang tags. Those are a really great way to reference. But if you don't have something like that, this is a good way to remember all those principles. So they're the hand signals.
So we need to stretch our fingers here.
Yeah, get your hands out. There you go.
I've never seen this. Dean's never taught me this. What the heck?
No, I haven't.
It's a great way to teach kids especially, but even with adults, you'll be thanking us in a week when you remember all the principles.
Yeah, adults are just big kids.
So first principle, we're going to take our number 1, we're going to think about our trip, and then we're going to make our list of the things we need to do.
Yeah, so number 1 is plan ahead and prepare. So you're thinking it through, you're writing everything down. You know the regulations, you know whether or not you can have a fire, you know the weather. You're going to be able to be safe and practice Leave No Trace on your trip.
Our second principle, we're going to take those 2s, they're going to become our legs, and we're going to travel and camp on durable surfaces.
So yeah, travel and camp on durable surfaces. It's pretty much like stick to trails. Good campsites are found and not made. You can use the Campin app to find those campsites. We want to try to avoid damaging the areas that maybe haven't had that use already.
Our third principle, we're going to take those 3s, we're going to dig our cat holes or maybe throw away our trash and dispose of waste properly.
Yeah, so there are so many types of waste. There's our human waste, so throwing things in that cat hole or digging that cat hole. There's our trash. Things like orange peels can actually last up to 2 years in our outdoor spaces. So it's really important that we pack all that trash out. And then there's things like wastewater, other types of waste. We just want to make sure we know how we should be disposing of it in that area that we're in.
Fourth principle, this is where it gets tricky. We're going to take 2 2s, make a camera, and we're going to take only pictures, leave only footprints, and break only wind as we leave what we find.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, added ones to your mantra that you were mentioning. But yeah, leave what you find is the 4th principle. Pretty much everything we find in nature has a role to play there, either in the ecosystem or in the story of that place. So it doesn't mean we can't interact with nature, but we just want to make sure we leave those things so that other people can enjoy them and so that they can continue to keep that ecosystem functioning.
Our 5th principle, we're going to make these our flames. We're going to use the Campin app, check our fire bans, and be careful with fire.
Yeah, we're going to minimize our campfire impacts. Wildfire is obviously a massive concern in our outdoor areas. And while it is a natural part of most cycles, actually 80 to 90% of all wildfires are human caused. So we want to make sure we're really mindful of having safe and responsible campfires.
Our sixth principle, we're going to take 2 3s, they become our antlers, and we're going to respect wildlife.
Yeah, respecting wildlife means keeping a safe distance from them, making sure we never feed them so that they can stay healthy and they can continue to be wild in these places that are their natural habitats.
And our final principle, we're going to wave at other people, give them the peace sign for our 7 there. And we're going to be considerate of all those 13 billion other visitors we share these places with.
Yeah, you could also go for a hang loose if that's more your vibe.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. We want to make sure we're giving other people the ability to get the same benefits from nature that we're out there seeking. So just being mindful of things like our noise, crowding, those types of things, just being kind to everyone who we encounter out in these places so that they have a good experience and we have a good experience.
Hey, that's just a good one to live by, whether you're outdoors or not. I like that.
Absolutely.
Waving and peace sign, that's a good one. Yeah. Honestly, I have never seen, in all of my experience with Leave No Trace, I've never seen the 1, the 2, the all that. I will not forget those now, and that's really cool. I don't know who the heck came up with that, if that was you guys or if that was above you, but that was cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, we don't know where they came from either.
They've been around
I will not forget that. Nice. Well, Dean, you're in trouble for not teaching that to me. And now I'm going to teach that to everyone before the Backcountry Tap Room, because that's so cool.
Good. We'll make that our next video for the tap room.
Yeah.
We should. That should be like a know before you go. Me and you can do it. We can do like a little.
We'll do a raffle for like a growler or something at the tap room.
Yeah.
I dig it. I like this one
Everyone
too.
listening has to come to the tap room and recite all of these.
Yeah.
And we'll do a giveaway or something like that.
That's a good one.
Commit to that.
Sweet. All right, let me just see. Nope. Someone's just over here begging us for beer. I was checking the comments, you guys. Someone says, I want to try your beer. It's not fair. I can't have it on Long Island. So you can't please everybody. Sorry, Willie. You'll just have to come and join us when the pandemic's over.
Willie, I'm from Long Island. I grew up on Long Island, so I had to move to Colorado to get some Upslope.
That's why.
Exactly. Okay, should we move on to kind of like the COVID-19 set of regulations and rules that you guys have had to kind of pivot to and deal with? Because I mean, that to me is a big one. I haven't actually been camping this season, which I'm embarrassed to say. I do have something planned soon where I will obviously be utilizing these principles, but I've been really kind of sticking to home and like local parks. Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned, people can still exercise these principles in a local park, you know, and certainly with COVID, if you're like on a path, you have to be really mindful of how close you are to people and all of those things. So do you guys want me to pull up that slide and we can kind of hit through some of those points?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Everyone's going to be covered again.
It's all right.
worries.
So especially during COVID, it's really important that we're thinking about these recommendations. And, you know, just to put it in perspective, I checked the Google mobility data for cell phones in Colorado. And Colorado is up actually 83% more visitation to parks and protected areas than a normal year even. So as busy as it is last July, it's 83% more than that, so almost doubled. And so that's why it's important we're really extra practicing Leave No Trace. So I'll talk really quickly about those first 3. And that first one is you and your outdoor world. And that just means to really stay plugged into your local area, what those recommendations are, and anywhere you might travel in that local area, knowing what you might be up against. So just for example, Erin and I are in the Reno Tahoe area. That's where our home base is when we're not on the road. And, you know, this area has 2 states, 6 counties, 3 national forests, all with separate rules, separate recommendations. And so we really want to make sure that even if we're traveling 5-10 miles, we know what we're up against and what limiting factors there may be for our recreation. That second one, expect closures. We're thinking, you know, not just whether a whole park or area is closed, but maybe the bathrooms are closed. Maybe the trash can is full and we need to have a plan for that. And just kind of making not only a plan B, but maybe a plan C, because a lot is changing in the moment and a lot of areas are really struggling with that increased capacity. Land managers are really stretched right now. And that third one, pack out your trash. And something we're asking folks to do during COVID is not only to pack out your trash to a trash can, but if you can, take it all the way home with you. That way we're lessening the burden on, trash resources in those areas. A lot of places are seeing increased trash and recycling in their parks, and maybe they don't have the capacity to handle that. So thinking about that third principle and disposing of all your waste properly, even if that means taking it clear home.
Yeah, we should have sent you this photo that if you head to our Instagram, you can see it. It's one of our last posts, but in our local area here in Tahoe, the trash cans were all overflowing after the weekend because the parks here they weren't able to hire the same seasonal staff, so they can't go and pick up the trash as often as they normally would. So there were just bags piled around the trash cans, and it's an area where bears are really active, and I'm sure that a lot of bears got into some trash after this weekend. So that one's really important, especially when there's these kind of really high use holiday weekends in the summer.
Bree, I think you had some add there.
Yeah, I was gonna add for Colorado in particular, when we were camping over the 4th, we always harp on, like, a simple thing to do is just bring extra trash bags, like throw in 3 instead of 1 is huge. But when we're camping, we'll bring our Upslope or whatever, and we'll have a recycling bag and a trash bag. But a lot of these small communities, small towns don't have a recycling center. So you have to, like you said, bring it all the way home if you want to actually recycle your stuff. And that's just an easy thing to do, and just dump your cans out all the way. Make sure that, your trash bag is somewhat clean, throw it in the back, and then take it to the recycling when you get home. But yeah, we saw that a lot this last 4th, and like overflowing trash bins in this little town in northern Colorado. And yeah.
Absolutely. The cool thing about your Upslope can too, or really any aluminum can, is aluminum's actually endlessly recyclable.
Yep.
So it's super important, as you were saying, if the town you're in or the park you're in doesn't have recycling, pack that recycling all the way home with you. That's such an easy thing. It was already in your car. You already made space for it to get it there. It shouldn't be too difficult to get it back with you and keep it in that endlessly recycling loop so that it's not going to, just go to a landfill or be left out as litter. Aluminum takes about 80 to 100 years to totally decompose if it's left out as litter. So
compare that to glass. Glass breaks down in about 1 million years is what our research shows. So, small steps like that really protect our outdoor spaces. And if we're all have that personal outdoor ethic to pack it out, we're going to leave them healthier than we got there.
For sure. I think we had a couple more on that list.
Couple more. So we want to try to avoid times and places of high use. So as much as we can, trying to maybe go during the week to different areas or at a different time of day, because we still want to spread out. We want to give people the ability to social distance still and not just be in a massive crowd. And then that also spreads out impacts. So not one area is like receiving all of the trash or all of the foot traffic. And then it's really important, as I was kind of saying earlier, to be practicing leave no trace. So all those 7 principles, putting them into action right now, because there aren't really cleanups taking place or volunteer trail work crews. All of these usual things that would be happening to keep our public lands healthy aren't really able to occur in the same way this year. So we want to kind of step up and be the stewards of those places. And then that final one is that 7th principle, being considerate and kind to other visitors. We want to really think about that right now, doing things like wearing our masks, washing our hands, keeping that social distance so that we're going to be safe and we're going to be keeping other people safe when we're in these outdoor spaces.
Totally. Yeah. It's been interesting being out in the park, because if you're running and you're biking and you're sweating and you're doing your thing, right? It's hard to have a mask on if it's 100 degrees out. But, what I always do is wear a buff. And that way, when I cross paths with somebody, I can just kind of put that up really quick, and it's really not too much to ask. And certainly, it's just imperative right now to get us out of what's going on. And that's what's happening in our tap rooms too. We have to follow state mandates, and you cannot come into the tap room without a mask. So, same stuff applies when you're in encountering other people. And so I like I said, I just love that 7th principle of being considerate, because I think we should remember that one always, not just when you're recreating.
That's right.
Yeah. Good thing to live.
We just produced these.
Yourself a
wow.
leash.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, these just came out
Let me
yesterday.
give you a full screen so you can really show people that, because those are dope.
Yeah, these are pretty rad. We had our designer create this.
Very cool.
Yeah, pretty simple, but also very breathable. It's got that like kind of cooling in it, and it's made with recycled plastic bottles too. So
very cool. Can people buy those on your website?
They can. Yeah, that's the shameless plug I brought today. Is that you can buy this off of our website. I'm not sure if they can yet because they showed up yesterday. The one time I've been in the office since we all kind of closed our office and started working from home, they showed up and I got mine and already used it. So
nice.
If not today, it'll be tomorrow or the next day. So keep checking our store, and we can put up a link here.
Cool.
It just got put up by someone in the staff. It looks like it's already good to go, Dean.
Nice. The L&T team is on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a quick question actually, because my wheels are turning as you guys were talking about things like, how long it takes a banana peel to decompose. Oftentimes I'm even with friends who I would deem relatively educated on recreating in the outdoors, and there's a difference of opinion sometimes, and there's questions of like, can you leave the orange peels around or whatever, and I'm always from the camp that if you brought it in any capacity, no matter what it is, you need to take it back, and that's what you guys would be preaching as well. I'm curious, what are some common misnomers that you encounter? What are some of the most common things that people are doing and they think they're doing it right, but they're not, and we just kind of need more education behind certain things?
Yeah,
totally. I think you hit it right on the head with the most common one there is that, natural foods are okay to be left out because they're biodegradable. In the long run, they really just affect wildlife significantly. It can harm their immune system. It draws them to where humans are. And then there's that human-wildlife conflict where they can become aggressive, or honestly, they just get near roadways and get run over by cars and things, all negative repercussions to them. So that's why we want to pack out that natural trash. If it doesn't grow there, shouldn't go there. That's usually something that's good to think about. But always packing that out. That's a huge misnomer. Another one is biodegradable soap. I'll let Erin talk a little bit more about that one because that's one we find all the time that people don't know, how it can affect our natural spaces.
Yeah, kind of just even the word biodegradable is something that I think throws people off a lot because there are, biodegradable wipes that people then think are okay to leave, or biodegradable soap that, maybe people have the misconception that it's okay to use in a water source. But just because something says biodegradable doesn't mean that it's something we want to leave in our natural spaces, because it still isn't natural to that area. And just the term biodegrade doesn't really tell you how long it takes to biodegrade.
Right.
So those wipes can last a significant amount of time and can cause some issues for wildlife, especially if they're left on the surface, or even if they're buried, sometimes animals can dig them up. And then biodegradable soap actually won't break down in a lot of our natural water sources because it's really cold water and it makes it difficult to break it down. So for dishwater, especially if we're dispersed camping and we're in an area that, doesn't have a sink or a gray water disposal, you want to go do your do your dishes in the bucket or something like that and go 200 feet or 70 big steps from water and dispose of your dishwater there, so that it's going to be able to be warm enough to break it down and it won't just go right into the water source. And then as Brice was saying with the food, because food can be really harmful for wildlife, so you'd actually want to strain your food waste out of your dishwater and pack that out. You could use like a coffee filter or old pantyhose or an actual strainer if you feel like making a couple dollar investment there. And then you could pack all of those things out. Because even something as small as sunflower seed shells have been enough to bring a bear into a campsite, because all these wildlife have a really good sense of smells. A lot of animals are so good at seeking out those food sources. And then, as Brice was saying, it just starts that food habituation process, and that becomes really difficult to break and has a whole plethora of negative implications for those animals.
Yeah, Bree, do you have any tips or things that you've started to do at your campsites or that you've seen or anything to add to that?
One of the big things, because we like to, I mean, we kind of just got started and we do have some content on our website about the 7 Leave No Trace, but one of the big things we try to do, like along with just bringing an extra trash bag, is, okay.
Just throw it.
Is water bottles. That's like something we see all the time is people bring a whole case of water bottles and it's such an unnecessary trash. And so simply having like one of those $10 MSR, water jugs is huge to like decreasing the litter. And then when you talk about that soap, I was like, oh my gosh, I have some of that soap. But we also have like the bins or not the bins, but it's like a bucket. We wash our water and then we'll go away and bury it. But that's, that biodegradable soap too. That's like one of those things that you never really know about. And I always wondered about. I was going to bring up too, the avoiding the high area, like the high use areas. Because that's something we found is that if you look on, top 10 sites to camp in Colorado, it'll be the top 10 sites on every different website. Yeah. And so then those areas get so overused. For example, like Guanella Pass, it's this gorgeous area right over by Mount Bierstadt. I'm sure you guys have been there or seen it. That got shut down a few years ago because of how many people went there and then the overuse. And then the elk population was decreasing. And so they had to shut it down. And now it's shut down probably indefinitely, right? So I think knowing that like those top 10 areas you see on websites are probably going to be really crowded. The other thing to kind of think about too is when you call a park ranger and you ask like, where should I go camping this weekend? They're so helpful, but they're going to tell you the same place that they tell everybody. And they don't know your vehicle. They don't know how well you are as a driver, and how adventurous you are. So they'll probably give you the most easy place to go. And while that might be a beautiful area, and we found beautiful areas doing that, it's probably going to also be, again, like an overcrowded area. So kind of digging in a bit more, whether it's, just doing your own research, asking the forest ranger a little bit more questions, that are applicable to you and your group, but trying to avoid the first site that maybe you find is always helpful for like avoiding the overcrowded areas.
Yeah, that's helpful with all the newbies that come to Colorado every year, just going on like a BuzzFeed or a Thrillist article. I mean, that stuff is cool and all because you want people to enjoy the things that are beautiful that we've all gotten a chance to potentially see as well. But yeah, it does. The internet has really turned everything, like mushroomed everyone's access to the same things in a way that's not so great sometimes. And, that's why we've seen like permits having to take place for otherwise places that people could have accessed with just nothing. So like that's happening in Colorado with like 14ers and Hanging Lake and also, in a plethora of places. Mm-hmm. I did still kind of want to ask y'all though about like the biodegradable soap thing is interesting because when you're on a multi-day trip in the backcountry or wherever, and you want to kind of wash your hair or wash your body or whatever that is in like a stream, what do you guys recommend people utilize in doing that? Because you're right, the water is going to be frigid, so nothing's really going to have an opportunity to break down. Is it just deal with it, use the water in a washcloth, or what's the recommendation there?
Yeah, so you could use something like wilderness wipes. That then you're not going to have to use that natural water source at all. You could do
taking notes.
Yeah, you could do a similar thing where you bring the water 200 feet away with you, or you could just not use soap and still kind of scrub the dirt off. It's going to get you clean enough.
Right, you're in the backcountry. What do you really need to be clean for?
Yeah.
We say the same thing about toothpaste. A lot of folks' habit is to spit the toothpaste in the fire pit or in a natural water source. And, that adds up over time. In fact, in some high alpine lakes, you can test it and find toothpaste, sunscreen, bug spray, all from just being on people's skin or they spit it out near that water source. And so, your teeth aren't going to fall out of your head in like a week's camping. So you can go without. We won't tell your dentist, don't worry. And it's a good way to leave no trace, or, spit it into a trash can. Or your trash bag. Easy ways to leave no trace and protect that water source.
Well, and also I don't think people consider the fact that many toothpastes that are on the market are going to smell sweet. And those are going to be the same effect as throwing a candy bar on the ground to a bear. Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't be. Yeah. I'm just sitting here thinking of all the times that I've maybe made a mistake myself or seen others. And, it's super important to plan ahead and think about all these things, and where are you going to put what you're using? You always need to think about that. Yeah, Bri's got the signals down. A very non-glamorous thing though too that I've seen and had personal arguments about, very non-glamorous, would be toilet paper, right? People want to look at that like it's so thin, and they've seen wet toilet paper disintegrate in no time, and what to do with that. And I just would rather leave it to you guys to answer that for everyone who happens to still be on, because I think it's time to put this misnomer to bed.
Yeah. So we like to think of leave no trace as a spectrum, right? So there's a lot of different options and things we can do depending on how strong our ethic is or what tools that we have available to us. The most leave no trace thing we can do is to pack that toilet paper out with us. Whether we use maybe a dry bag that seals really well, or one of our favorites is what we call a FOPO bag. Stands for fear of packing out, similar to FOMO. And it's just a Ziploc wrapped in duct tape, so it's a little more durable. You can put your toilet paper, pads, tampons, anything that shouldn't be left out and is kind of that gross trash, like diapers or things as well.
And you don't have to see it. It's hidden.
Yeah. Blacking it out is the key, folks. If you're scared of it, first of all, you kind of have to follow all the rules in order to go and do this stuff. You can't just pick and choose. If you're too scared to dig a cat hole, then you probably shouldn't be out there doing all that stuff, right? You go to a place that's got the facilities. But when you're truly backpacking in the backcountry, it's like, you got to plan for that stuff. So I love the idea of a duct taped covered Ziploc. That is a good tip, y'all. Do that.
Sure. And then, beyond that, a little less than leave no trace, but still an acceptable method is if you're digging a cat hole, a 6 to 8 inch hole, 200 feet or 70 big steps away from water, you put that toilet paper in the bottom of your cat hole so it'll decompose. It may still, in some ecosystems, especially if it's dry, take up to a year to decompose. But it's good. It's better than just leaving it on the surface. We don't want, those Charmin flowers to become Colorado state flower. And doing that so that we're not going to leave anything behind is a good way to still practice leave no trace.
Yeah. And for people who use toilet paper when they just have to pee, a great option is reusable pee cloth. And then you don't have to even worry so much about how much toilet paper you're packing in and out. There are a ton on the market, but even just like a bandana can serve the same purpose. That's
interesting.
Is super helpful for not having to deal with packing stuff in and out all the time.
And I do just want to add really quickly one thing, with COVID amongst us right now, even those front country environments, bathrooms might be closed, and everyone taking a few minutes to learn how to dig a cat hole, how to dispose of waste properly, because poop happens. We need to be prepared for it in any circumstance. And that's really something that's going to protect those outdoor ecosystems.
Yeah, now's the time to learn.
Yeah. Dean, something I saw, I actually meant to text you about this. I saw something interesting on social media or something the other day, and it was rock climbers who are like camped up on a wall, and like what to do if you have to poop, and like the bags that they have, like if you have to poop while you're on a climb. And Dean's a climber, people. This is why I'm bringing him into this, not because, Dean poops in bags all the time, but I was just like, what in the heck I had never considered that. Like when you're sleeping up on a wall for this multi-day thing. I'm not a climber, so can you talk about that at all? I was like, wow, that is intense.
Yeah, for definitely. I mean, even if you've like gone for a hike in like Boulder backcountry, kind of where Upslope is based, and you'll see some kiosks that'll actually have those bags that the Boulder climbing community actually raises funding for and gives them out for free. And they work with the Open Space Mountain Park Division to install those kiosks and make sure they're updated, as much as the donation can allow, people will be able to take those. it's just another method. First of all, it's a method that can be used by hikers or anyone, especially if you're going to go, let's say, hike Long's Peak,
Right.
and it's a rocky environment, you're above tree line, you can't dig a cat hole. And I don't know if you've been up there or anywhere above tree line, you'll see marmots and whatnot in the Colorado backcountry, and you can't dig that hole. So the only option is to pack it out. Which is actually my preferable method. I'll be honest. I'll disclose that here on this.
Who knew we were going to be talking so in depth about going to the bathroom? But it's
we do a lot of leave-no trace, so it's fine. But it comes with like a little handy wipe, toilet paper. Then you have a bag with like a smellable powder in there that helps break down all the feces. And the Ziploc bag, it comes kind of double bag typically. There's multiple different types. But then they don't really smell. And all you have to do is just carry them out. And so when you're on like a wall, if you're climbing, or you'll see it a lot in Yosemite and people are on a ledge, you go in that bag and then you put it in. Now they have different types of smaller haul bags for it, which are like kind of double PVC lined. But the old method, which is the method I still have, is what is it? Just kind of like a Home Depot made tube out of PVC piping, and then with like a sealable top. And you put those bags in. If you're on a wall for 5 days, you're going to go at least 5 times, if not more. You probably have a partner. So you put it all in the tube, and it seals all the smellables, and you just haul it, and you forget about it. It's part of the nature, and you have to be okay doing that. If that's the sport that you want to do. If you want to go high in the alpine terrain here in Colorado, you need to, you should be taking that method with you, or making sure you're able to hold it. And I always like the motto, go before you go. If you're going to go on a hike and it's, a small hike, just make sure you're prepared to not go while you're on your hike, and you should be good.
There you go. Yeah, I think, I mean, like I said, didn't know we were going to get into this territory, but it is one that people are kind of like try to not talk about, and then try to just break that rule because they're feeling weird about it or something. And it's really a very detrimental thing to be doing. I mean, that's why I brought up the toilet paper thing, because you'll wake up and everyone's been having a good time at night and it's dark, and you wake up and like the amount of toilet paper that you can sometimes see around people's sites is a little alarming at best. Yeah. Like, I would just take that with you. It doesn't need to sit out there.
Yeah, and it affects your experience too,
Oh,
if you go somewhere and there's toilet paper flowers everywhere.
Not a good look.
Yeah, you don't really want to enjoy that spot as much.
Mm-hmm.
And our human waste has a bunch, over 100 actually active bacteria and pathogens that can contaminate water. A hot spring pretty close to where we're at was just shut down because of E. coli in the water from people not following all of these things. So it's taboo, but it's one of those things we want to talk about, and we want to make it more normal for people to know what to do, because there are some pretty significant impacts if we aren't following these things.
Definitely. Well, talking about, favorite spots to go and not ruining them, I wanted to put up a couple of quick pictures. This is going to decapitate the bottom row of our guests here, but they're really cool pictures that Bree took. And we can definitely switch gears and talk about people's favorite places to go. And I'd love to hear from the traveling team, since you get to do this so often, what is your number one? So here's a cool pic from Bree. That just is so beautiful. That's why we do what we do. Bree, where is that?
That's one that we found recently. It's at the Sand Lake Louise, and it's a state wildlife area. So it's free if you have a fishing or hunting license. That's actually a good thing to bring up, because that was just started in July 1st in Colorado because of the increase of population in Colorado, and the state wildlife areas just couldn't keep up with taking care of their spaces. Totally. So they put into place, if you're going to be in these areas that we take care of, that you should have a license, and then that would help fund it. So I don't really fish. Maybe I'll fish every other year. My husband loves fishing, but I just bought a fishing license just to access those areas. So that's in the San Lake Luis, outside of the sand dunes. That's gorgeous. And that was actually taken right after a sandstorm. So we had just like sat through a 30-minute sandstorm right before that. So
pretty cool picture. You have another one that is a terrain that a lot of front rangers would recognize in general. You know, this is what you think of when you're camping here. Where was this one taken?
Yeah, that was where we camped over the 4th of July. And it's this gorgeous area over by this town called Columbine, Colorado. It's like a general store, so I don't really know if you call it a town. Sorry if you're from there. It is a town.
It's beautiful, as you can see.
And that's down this road called Twin Mountain Road. It's like this dirt road that is kind of ATV friendly. But we camped there. It was like really private location. Hardly anyone out there for 4th of July, which is crazy and gorgeous. There wasn't any campfires, but it didn't matter. So we had a great time, viewed some stars, and made the most of it. So.
Sweet. Talking about no campfires, and feel free to talk a little bit more about your app and how people can kind of get a hold of that and what it's really all about. Because you mentioned it's dispersed camping, and you know, camping can be daunting for people because if you don't know where to go, I'm pretty darn experienced with camping, and there's some times where I'm like, man, I didn't plan enough, and it's Friday, and I know how Colorado can be, and I can't get myself in a situation where I don't have a spot to responsibly camp. So an app like yours is extremely important for people who don't know the lay of the land or don't have their like secret spot. So here's a quick thing we'll put up. Would this be a view people would see on your app?
Yeah, if they went on there right now and they had, we do have like a free membership and a premium. The free is really just to give you kind of a look at what we offer. But the premium gives you all of our sites and then gives you the firebrand information. And this is an updated look at what the firebrand looks like this year. And as you can tell, it's pretty significant. So most sites, you can't have a fire this year. And Colorado is actually in quite a bit of a drought, about, I would say like 90%, if I were guessing on percentages, is in a pretty severe drought in Colorado. So those fire bans are really important. But yeah, I think a lot of times people, when they want to go camping and they don't know where to go, or maybe you do have a favorite site and you just want to have a second favorite site, or, you know, kind of get out past that, it can be really hard to research. It's very time consuming. As I'm sure everybody knows that's ever tried to find your own campsite, it's extremely time consuming. And then you might get there and then realize that it's actually private land or something, which happens a lot too, because people can post anything onto like other apps out there. It's all user generated. And so somebody could say, yeah, I camped here, and it's not even a spot. So there's some issues around that, some pretty big issues. So what we wanted to do is like give people like reliable areas. Like, we've been here, we saw it, we photographed it, we'll detail it. And in my details, I'm the one writing everything, and I take it's like a whole page when I'm done. So whenever I write in there, I'll say like, this is a popular site, don't avoid weekends, you know, so hopefully you have a little bit more information like that. Or I'll say this is a popular site for ATVers, so if you really want a quiet area, maybe don't go here. You know, I love ATVers, though I find that there's some of, since I've been camping, especially this year, there's some of the cleanest campers. So they always have been going. So it's great if you love the ATVing and stuff like that. But yeah, so I'll try to put in a ton of detail in there too, rather than just like, great site, go here, which you'll find on a lot of different websites and stuff. And you're like, okay, but tell me more. And the last thing that we do too, that I think is really helpful, that people just don't get, especially if you're not from here, is that you don't get the road access and like the vehicle access. So like a lot of places in Colorado are Jeep friendly or Tacoma friendly. You know, there are these crazy roads that are really fun to drive, but if you have a Prius, you probably shouldn't go on those roads. Luckily, you're like, yes, seriously. But
I have a Tahoe, thankfully, so I can go pretty much everywhere. But I see some funny stuff. I'm like, how did this person get up here?
Yeah, some people are really good drivers, or they just don't care.
Or they just don't care about their car.
I think it's that one, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, that Mini Cooper shouldn't have made it up here.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, I'm sure I've seen a Prius somewhere or a Mini Cooper. Anyway.
And so we just say like, hey, this is, an easy 1 to 3, which means if you have the earlier sites are a 1, which means a Prius can make it there, but eventually you'll hit a 3, which means you probably should have somewhat of clearance, maybe a Jeep Cherokee or even like a Volkswagen Tiguan, something like that, right? That are really popular here. Those could make it to those areas. So I think that helps plan and prepare.
It works.
So, okay, can we talk about fire bans? Because, again, I think there's certain people who like to think that the rules don't apply to them. And they're like, well, I'm going to be safe, so I'm going to do it. And, like, obviously nobody on this, nobody that we know or anyone on this live would ever suggest to not pay attention to the local regulations. That is number 1 in planning and preparing. And, again, it's like, if you know that that's the part of the deal, and you're going to go, then you got to be good with it. And you have to respect that, because that is incredibly, haven't y'all heard about these stories of people who wasn't there someone who did a gender reveal and they lit off a firework and then they caused a massive fire? I think somewhere down by where you guys are right now is where that occurred. And you're like, can you imagine being the asshole, rather, I'm going to say that because we're a 21 and up channel, the asshole that chose to think that the rules didn't apply to them. And then they set our beautiful lands on fire. That stuff is really crazy. And so as y'all see, this is the list. You cannot have a fire darn near anywhere you are going. So please do not think you can. And then what are our tips for people about that? Because people are like, well, I needed light, or it got cold, or it keeps the bugs down. It's like all of these things with your planning and preparation can be handled. So I don't know if you guys want to talk to some of the tips and tricks for that.
Yeah, definitely. So, if you're relying on a campfire for cooking, light, or bugs, there are much better options. Wear a coat, bring a headlamp, and, from experience in the Wind River Range in June, bring a head net. It works wonders for mosquitoes. And fires are a quintessential part, and Leave No Trace isn't necessarily anti-campfire. We're pro-responsible campfire, and there's definitely a difference. And realizing when and where we should or shouldn't have those campfires is extremely important. Actually, a good example here in Reno, just last week, actually, there was a human-caused fire right near town that ended up, we lost 8 structures, some homes, and they have huge repercussions. And remember that 80-90% of all wildfires are started by humans.
Yeah, that one was actually a vehicle fire. So even just your car, the under part of your car can be pretty hot after you've done that drive to your area. So if you're parking on tall grass, that can sometimes be enough to start a fire. So being really mindful of just if you're a smoker and you have a cigarette butt, not tossing that out into some tall grass. Being really mindful of all these different ways we might cause those fires, and using those alternatives, because you can do even a fun race with your friends, like have someone with a camp stove try to cook dinner versus someone who has to build a fire and cook dinner, and the camp stove is going to win and be a lot more thoroughly cooked and a lot faster. So there are alternatives for anything you're going to use a fire for.
And campfires, beyond wildfires, can remove carbon and nitrogen from the soil because of the firewood we take from areas. New campfire rings actually sterilize the microbes and any living material in soil up to 6 inches deep below that fire pit. So, I always challenge people, next time you go camping, even if fires are allowed, bring a lava lamp that you all sit around or something and have some fun without a fire. It's really, with the right attitude, you can have just as much or just as good of a time. You can still cook s'mores over your stove and they taste just as good, I promise you. Next time you have a s'more, try it with a Reese's cup instead of regular Hershey's. It's killer.
Nice. That's the pro tip that Bree's writing down immediately.
Yeah, we did that. Actually, a friend of mine, we showed up late and I thought they had a fire, but they had a candle, like a blood orange candle, and then some little LED lights around. That was way better. And we woke up in the morning not smelling like smoke, and I wasn't coughing and thinking I had coronavirus. And it was pleasant. One other thing I wanted to mention that, I'm going to go back on the toilet paper issue, of course. There have definitely been known to have people burning their toilet paper and also starting wildfires. So that's also one thing that people might have said, like, oh yeah, I can burn my toilet paper. That's also not something that we recommend as well. the pack it out method, or if you have to, you can bury it. But the burning is never something that we want to suggest, especially now with all these closures too. There is a high potential of winds coming up and starting a fire that you can't control.
Also, that just sounds gross. So
yeah, right. It also takes a ton of water to appropriately put out a fire. And I think sometimes people, based upon how much upslope they packed with them, they might be itching to leave in the morning from their car camping site because they've got a bit of a hangover. It's like you cannot leave until your site is responsibly put down, so it's really valuable for people to tune into things like what we just did and to understand about these principles. I mean, it's so important if we want to be able to have these sites for years to come and whatnot. So, and actually funny enough about the lava lamp comment and LEDs, Upslope recently put out our Welcome to Can Country kind of pro go outside, have fun and opera everything video. We put that out the other day on Instagram a couple weeks ago. And there's a scene where it looks like we are being illuminated by a campfire and we're all like drinking around a fire. But the time of the shoot, this was like a year and a half ago, the time of the shoot, there was a fire ban. So our team at Traverse Image, who does our video work, brought some really cool like stage effects stuff and took like that like thin filament type paper that's like orange and yellow, and they were crinkling it with a fan over a flashlight. And I'm gonna tell you, watch this. Anyone who's watching, go on our Facebook and our Instagram and take a look at that video. You will see, it might even be the opening shot or whatever, or the thumbnail. And it really looks like we're just having a drink over a fire. And we felt like there was a fire because of the colors. So it's really kind of cool with all the cool lighting that's out there. Like Goal Zero is a company that we've worked with before, and they have really cool solar lights and stuff. So it's like, you really don't need a fire. Like Dean said, you're going to smell bad anyway. It takes forever to effectively put one out so that you can have peace of mind to really leave. And if you're not cooking over one, also like get a bug net, get bug spray. There's little bands you can wear that are like citronella. And my husband is a magnet for anything that bites and I'm not. So I'm always like, let's stay out here for longer. And he's like, no. And so it's a bummer. So I've kind of outfitted him with this, like these bands up his arms and stuff. So there's plenty of ways to enjoy a site without a fire, especially as Bree pointed out right now, when every little county you could think of is on a fire ban. So
yeah. I'll point out, like, I love those fairy lights. You can get them for really cheap too now. And then we just put them on the perimeter and we have like a little ring of lights around the campsite. So it helps with, seeing where you're going and stuff like that. But yeah, you can really have fun with it and kind of get creative with it. I'll also say too, that the county fire bans, they're only one area or one entity that can create fire bans. National Forest can as well. So, and they're harder to kind of track down. You have to go to their exact website to find those. So it's not as easy as finding the county fire bans, but just if you are gonna, think ahead and plan, make sure you go to whatever national forest you're going to and seeing if they have a fire ban as well. But from what I could see in Colorado, I think it's like every national forest. I couldn't find one that didn't. Because I had to track them all down. So I could be missing one. I don't want to say for sure, but every one that I looked up had a fire ban right now too. So
just a good reminder to whatever you're about to go do. If you did your trip planning on a Monday and you're not leaving till Friday, you better get on Friday morning or Thursday. I mean, it's the same with weather. You can't just like set it and forget it. You really have to plan for it all. I think that's like a really big takeaway when I first moved out here, is how quickly the weather can roll in and really put a damper on your 14er hike, But yeah, I think we're rolling into an hour, guys, and I would love to do a couple of quick takeaways of like maybe your favorite tip or trick to leave with people, and then like your favorite place that you've experienced as of late. So Dean, you can start us off.
Well, I was just up in Wyoming, up in Vitavue, Wyoming. I took a week off from work. And that's one of my favorite places to go. I mean, just the landscape is totally different than anything in my backyard. I mean, it's not forest, it's kind of high plain, desert, a lot of hail, a lot of lightning storms to get stuck in. So that's always really exciting. But yeah, I would say that's kind of one of my favorite places to go. And it's 2 hours from my house, so I can make it round trip on one tank of gas and not even stop. So I can go door to door without even affecting another community, which is kind of a plus right now.
Absolutely. Did you do some climbing? I assume that was the nature of the trip.
That was the nature. Yeah.
Cool.
A little bit of that, a little bit of hammocking, some reading. Just kind of.
All right, traveling team, what's your favorite? You see everything.
Yeah, we have too many favorites to count, but I really enjoyed the Boundary Waters canoe area wilderness in northern Minnesota. It's just like endless lakes you can canoe. We had a whole island to ourselves, and
Awesome.
lake up there. Yeah, we heard wolves, and it was a really good time.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go with favorite places we've been. I'm going to go with favorite places I want to go. Some I found on that Campin app up near Steamboat Springs that look pretty killer. So I think that's going to be a real, when we're able to get back to Colorado, something we'll look up instantly.
Very cool. Yeah, Steamboat's incredible, no matter what you're doing up there. All right, Bree.
Yeah, that's stuff. I was gonna say those are my favorite areas. Okay, Campin app favorite place to go. Actually, takeaways, wilderness wipes, and Reese's cups. Those are my takeaways. And then favorite place to go. I would actually have to say, so it's an area that doesn't get hit hard by traffic at all because it's really out there, but it's around Yampa, Colorado, which again is a super small town. So definitely plan ahead with groceries and stuff. There's like a one diner there, but I don't even know if they're open during COVID. They did make a really good burger though. So if they are open, when they're open, wear a mask and then, maybe. But it's Sheriff's Reservoir is gorgeous. Definitely really buggy, so bring bug spray if you go there. But Sheriff's Reservoir is so pretty, an easy one to drive to. So if you have like a trailer, an RV, you can get there. And again, it's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So take a few days, maybe take a long weekend or something, and go enjoy that area. There's hikes over there too, and it's awesome.
Very cool. Well, heck yeah, you guys heard it here. These are the authorities on the matter. We didn't talk too much at all about the Backcountry Tap Room, Dean, but I would like to put in everyone's on everyone's radar that we are looking to be able to do that safely. Certainly following county guidelines, as that event has to always consult with the local jurisdiction about what can and cannot take place. But we are hoping to do that on August 29th. It's looking like we have about 175 people maximum being requested due to COVID, of course. So we're looking at ways of how we're going to do like maybe a couple of different reservations so that we can have 2 turns of groups, or perhaps because this is permissible, we can do 2 zones. So it's like 2 separate events almost. So we're looking at really creative ways to get this done. Dean and I are going to start talking probably every couple of days soon, because this event has a lot of legwork involved, and it is a great fundraiser for Leave No Trace, and it's near and dear to my heart, Upslope's heart, and Dean's for sure. So yeah, look out for more information about that coming soon, but mark your calendars if you're thinking about you want to come. It's be super limited capacity, and August 29th. So yeah, that's it from us, guys. If y'all have any other questions or anything, there's a lot of links in the comments from the Leave No Trace camp and probably some of Upslope commentary. I'm not sure. Campin is available if you have any questions. Get the app, and let's all go outside. Let's go outside and do it responsibly, and let's be nice to everybody. Remember number 7.
Yeah.
Bye. Peace. All right, so we're going to sign off, guys. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all of the guests for being here. When I hit end, you guys can still be here, and we can chat for a second, but we're going to say bye to you guys for now. Thanks for joining us. See ya.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.